think every patient is a little bit different, right?
Of course.
I don't think HIIT training is something that's like a blanket every person should go and do.
Hmm.
There are contraindications as well that you have to consider, but for the people that can do the HIIT training, I do find that we get really, really good results. Like I've seen people in like 3 months of like moderate continuous exercise training, their VO2s might go from like 11 to 13. So like still a pretty like an okay jump, 10 to 15%. But then when we would do HIIT training with them for 3 months, they'd go from like 13 to like 18.
Much different.
So we get these like massive jumps if we're able to do high intensity interval training with the patients.
Mm-hmm. And to quickly sort of define that, I usually talk about it's the capacity to be able to do work, right? To be able, and above a certain threshold, you're probably able to do a lot on your own with in terms of VO2, right? So this has a major, like from going from 11 to 13, 11 to 15, 18 is a much bigger capacity for them to live their life.
Live longer, be able to carry out like activities of daily living,
Mm-hmm.
right? Energy cost for activity, um, the percent of energy cost for activities, it stays the same, but it's less relative,
Mm-hmm.
right? The absolute stays the same, but it's
So to be less
relatively.
tired from doing day-to-day stuff, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that this is some really cool work you guys are doing. It. I did follow Jabala's work for a while, and I think everyone sort of moved to the high intensity boat for a while. Do you feel like you'll get more of an effect from that in general, or is it just more so in heart patients? Like, what do you think?
I think that you just get a different adaptation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's positives in that sense. Um, but it's all person dependent.
Of
Like
course.
the exercise that you're going to do is the exercise that's going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So saying that high intensity interval training is like the end all be all isn't really true, because some people just like to get on the bike and ride for 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
For them, if they're going to do that 4 times a week versus they're just going to fall off from a HIIT training protocol, then that's not really exercise that I want to prescribe to them.
Yeah. So the most effective prescription is something that they're actually going to do.
Yes.
Even though that one might have a different effect than the other, you want to prescribe based on the person's personality, what they're able to do, what they like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we had a colleague at Toronto Rehab. She did her PhD on high intensity interval training in women in
Mm-hmm.
heart with heart conditions, and the PhD basically turned into a PhD of asking women why they won't do high intensity interval training.
Really?
So in that group, it wasn't possible, or it wasn't their preferred method of exercise. But then I have patients who I give high intensity interval training to, and they like love it, and
Mm-hmm.
they're really adherent to it.
And what are some things you look at, I guess, to figure out who would be better doing what?
Yeah, so there are like certain heart contraindications that would tell me someone can't do the HIIT training. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously that would be a reason not to. But I look for people who are actually older, who are more obese, who maybe that's yeah, or like just need something to like kind of like jumpstart their fitness training.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't take the already fit people and give them HIIT training. It's actually the opposite.
To get them started, just to get them doing something.
Yeah, or if they've been through a big weight loss, then I say, okay, let's change this up. Let's do some high intensity interval training to like keep
Mm-hmm.
them engaged and keep them going.
Mm-hmm. That's super cool. So, would you say somebody who was doing like, let's say, the traditional long distance stuff, at some point they should start as long as it's not contraindicated, start introducing some HIIT training to keep them going for their adaptation?
Yeah, well, I think the best protocol is a mix. So I think that you do like 2 to 3 days a week of HIIT training, and then you do the other, say, balance it off the 5 days a week and do the moderate intensity continuous training. It's
Mm-hmm.
like training an athlete. Like when I was doing triathlons, I never did just like one protocol. It was like sometimes I was doing 4 minute intervals, sometimes I was going for my long, slow distance rides. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that you should change. I don't think that those fundamental training principles change just because someone has heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
I think you do the same.
And that's a lot different than maybe we would have looked at this maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even 5 years ago, like when I started at Toronto Rehab, like back up there, um, we were going through a whole process of implementing the HIIT training.
Mm-hmm.
So that, like I said, that was only 5 years ago at the largest, cardiac rehab institution in North America. So it's very new. Very
Yeah. And some cool stuff's coming out of that clinic, that school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned Gabala's work, so he's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like the pioneer of this stuff out of McMaster. His is more in like cardio, not so much cardiac, but more metabolic changes, more in people with like diabetes and stuff like that. And he's got a really great book if you have never read it.
I haven't heard it yet. What's it called?
Yeah, it's called The 1 Minute Workout.
1 Minute Workout?
Summarizes a lot of his work, but his research really shows that, HIIT training, when it's volume matched, you get sort of the same sort of adaptations, but if you're not volume matched, you don't get the same, like you get the same amount of adaptation. But if you're volume matched with HIIT training, you actually do get a little bit more adaptation.
Okay. Yeah. Which is hard in some cases because it's intense. So a lot of people are not able to do a lot of volume with it, right?
Exactly. So that's why you end up getting studies that are like wishy-washy. You get, sometimes they show that their, high intensity interval training is better. Sometimes you see that it's not better. And that's sort of what it comes down to. To volume match high intensity interval training with like moderate continuous training, like you said, it's a lot of work. So if they'll do it, great. If they won't, stick to what they'll do.
And that's why I think what you said is really important. It's something that we do talk about at Insight Coaching. Like, you want to match what you're able to do, what you like to do, with your plan, because it might be that a certain plan is the best plan in terms of a certain type of result, but you got to match it to what you're capable, what you have time to do, what you have the support to do, because otherwise, if you're not doing anything, it doesn't matter what plan that you had written out.
100%. It's all about behavior change.